The worst people I met on this journey, by far, no one is even close. Attorneys. Making the movie was, exhilarating, and it was also the most stressful thing I've probably ever encountered. I've said it before. I've said, when people ask me what it's like to make an independent movie, I say, oh, okay, so what you do is you take the most critical deadline you've ever faced. I take the most dire financial crisis you've ever faced. Add those two together and multiply by 10. That's what it's like to make an independent Hollywood movie. It is very difficult. And I just saw a podcast with Paul Thomas Anderson. He said, and I've been quoting him, he said, it's a miracle any movie gets made. That's how difficult it is. When a big-time director and filmmaker says that, it is, people don't realize all the elements that have to come together, to make this film.
And do you think if it hadn't have been such a special story to you, you would have given, if it had just been some just horror story that maybe you were invested in, liked it, or a coming-of-age drama about another family, but because there was a personal connection to it, you kept driving it through?
That's a really, really good question. I've never thought of it. I don't know. I just know that I faced, I went into this, and another thing I learned about filmmakers is that, maybe I said it somewhat flippantly, but I said I was not going to risk my family, my finances, or my faith to make this movie. And in the end, I risked all three of them. I risked everything. And I've learned every filmmaker who is making a film, especially for the first time, and sometimes not even for the first time, and it might be for a special project. But I was facing, personal ruin, financial ruin if I didn't get this movie made, and so it was an incredible experience. But it's not unique. It's fair. It's just a tough world out there.
That is
right?
very true. I'm curious, and I don't want to push things beyond a limit you don't want to go, but you said you pushed against your faith, and so it jeopardized that as well.
Yeah, just
so whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, it just pushing everything I pushed everything sort of to the limit of my. What am I going to do to make this movie? Or what am I capable of doing or not doing? And so, you have to ask yourself some difficult questions. But it worked out, but it was pretty dicey for a while, and it happens. People, the movie gets delayed. We had, the 2008 happened with the crash of the market, and you have some investors who get unhappy, and then all of a sudden you get blamed for a lot of things that you have no control over, right? And it can, but it's not unique. It's not unique to me, or it's not unique to filmmakers. I think it's anyone who starts a business, anyone who is an entrepreneur. I got sued 3 times.
Oh my, okay.
And I would tell this story to other people in Hollywood that I know, and they would laugh at me. You got sued, welcome to the club, Bill.
Sorry.
But it didn't necessarily.
It was a hazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, wow. It's a whole other story. I think it made me a better attorney. Once I got sued, I learned. I love the law profession. I have a daughter who's a judge. But I tell people, I took this fascinating journey in making this film. And I met agents and producers and actors and union people and financiers, studio people. The worst people I met on this journey, by far, no one is even close. Attorneys. The worst profession. And they knew I was an attorney. And I'd say, that's your answer to me. And you know that I'm an attorney. And that's your answer. That's how you're treating me. We have a real problem. The legal profession has a problem. And it wasn't until I was a client that I learned that.
What was the idea that got you excited about this story?
Well, the two would be, one is my relationship with my brother was very unique. And I always felt that it was. And that it was a story that I thought needed to be told, okay? But then we also had this love of Roberto Clemente, this ball player who was just bigger than life, and he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we were Pittsburgh Pirate fans, and my father would take us to the games, and we would, as we got older, as teenagers, we'd go to the games ourselves. But the Roberto Clemente story dovetails really nicely with the story of the brothers. And, he, because his life ends so tragically, it adds this emotional element to the story. But he was and is the most influential player probably in baseball, because he is, for the Latin players, the most important and the greatest player for them, and coming out of Latin America. And he was not only, and he was a great player, and he had 3,000 hits. He won 2 World Series, and he was also a humanitarian. But he was a great man. I always say, whatever profession he was going to choose, whether it was going to be a teacher or a doctor or whatever he would do, Roberto Clemente would have been great, because he just seemed to have this innate greatness about him.
And I don't know too much about him, but if I understand correctly, that his greatness is unfortunately what caused his demise in the end.
Well, yeah, in that he was going to fly to Nicaragua after the earthquake, and what happened was money, supplies, food were being sent to Nicaragua, but some of the corrupt officials there were not getting it to the people. And he had actually gone to Nicaragua to teach a baseball camp, and he had this connection with the Nicaraguan people. And he said, "Oh, I will go. They won't do that to me. I will make sure that the people get these supplies." And so on New Year's Eve, 1972, they took off from San Juan, Puerto Rico in a plane which was mechanically compromised and overloaded, and it crashed on takeoff into the ocean.
And he was never found?
He was never found. His body was never found. A great quote was a sister, a Catholic nun, said, so that his spirit could be spread within the ocean. His spirit could go more places. Kind of a beautiful thought. But yeah, so he was a very beloved player and admired, and my brother and I, Steve and I, had this love of Clemente.
Bill, how badly did your brother want you to make this film?
Maybe at first, I'm not sure if I mean, he wanted me to make the film and to be successful, but as time went on and as we experienced setbacks and trials, and I reached out to him personally on each and every one of them, and he was my ally as he was throughout my life. He very much wanted to make this movie. He was fearless. That's one of the things that was so interesting about my brother and me is that I was physically stronger than my brother, but he was emotionally stronger than me. Maybe that's a little bit a part of the story. I tried to make it a part of the story, if you think about it. And but when you're disabled, we had a problem with one guy. I forget who it was right now, and everybody was afraid to approach this person, this guy on this money issue. And so I called my brother Steve, and I told him, that everybody's afraid of this guy. And he said, I'll talk to him. He said, Bill, I can't move my arms and legs. What could this guy possibly do to me? It's a pretty interesting perspective. But that's how tough my brother was. He was fearless. He didn't care about what this guy thought or did. And but he was with me every step of the way.